No, now
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want murders solved.
Can I
just let her finish?
Scott's gonna.
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow
Scott, I
it.
know
It's
you're
a
not-
stupid
Scott,
argument. I'm not going to allow
Scott,
it.
Scott, just let her finish.
I know
I don't even know that we've even heard the argument
No,
yet.
we heard it. We heard it every day.
Scott.
You could almost feel the tension radiating through the screen. On CNN's primetime stage, Scott Jennings, a man who has practically made a career out of parroting the most tired talking points from the MAGA playbook, found himself in a fiery back and forth with Democratic strategist Julie Regginsky. And let me tell you, it wasn't just a mild disagreement. This was the kind of on-air clash where every word feels like a jab and every pause feels like someone loading up their next punch. The setting? Abby Phillip's CNN show, where debates often go off the rails, but this one quickly turned into a battle royale. Jennings wasn't just sparring with Julie. He was facing pushback from the entire panel, with Abby herself stepping in to hold the line. What we got was less of a calm policy discussion and more of a pressure cooker moment, the kind of exchange that perfectly captures why so many people say American politics is on a knife's edge right now. And here's the thing. Whenever Scott Jennings walks into a debate, you can almost predict the trajectory. He doubles down, he deflects, and then he tries to spin the narrative as if everyone else in the room just doesn't get it. But this time it was different. The pushback came fast, it came sharp, and it came from multiple angles. That's what made this clash so riveting to watch. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Everything is an emergency, giving him extraordinary powers that are supposed to be temporary in many cases, but he's using them in ways that have never been used before. Where does this end, Scott?
Well, I guess in the case of safety for Washington, D.C., it'll end when it's safe again. I mean, and Congress may need to get involved here.
What do you define as safe again?
Well, what do you define as an acceptable rate of violence in the city? I think the expectation of the citizens is they don't want to die or get carjacked.
I think becomes a very important question. How do we define what safe again means in an American city?
Well, I think in Washington, D.C., you're going to have substantial reductions in violence, substantial reductions in murder, substantial reductions in carjackings, and people are generally going to have to feel like they can walk around and not be under threat all the time. Now, some of this could be statistical, some of it could just be what the local residents are telling him about their quality of life. Will it be solved in 30 days? Probably not, but they're already making substantial progress. They've had over 100 arrests since August the 7th when he first brought this up. 43 people were arrested last night. Bad people are being taken off the streets. Illegal weapons are being taken off the streets. So they're already having some success. My advice on this as a punditry matter would be, well, let's see where we are at the end of 30 days. How much progress have they made? And then Congressman can make an assessment at that point about whether this is working, and maybe it would help to extend it a little bit.
I guess I'm old enough, Scott, to remember when you were appalled, as the rest of us were, on January 6th, when he wouldn't.
Because January 6th happened, should we not enforce the law today?
Excuse me.
Do you want murders today?
Let me finish, Scott. I know
January 6th equals no enforcement
Scott, I know you hate talking about
this is a silly argument.
No, let me finish before you make a point about a silly argument.
It'll be silly, but go ahead.
No, what's silly is you sitting down with Mitch McConnell over Chick-fil-A and lamenting how Donald Trump was putting all of you, including Mitch McConnell, in harm's way. But I guess now you're so...
I wasn't in harm's way. I was in Louisville.
No, your then boss, your friend Mitch McConnell certainly was. But, now...
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want murders solved.
Can I finish?
Just let her finish.
Scott's going to...
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow it. It's a stupid argument. I'm not going to allow it.
Scott, just let her finish. I don't even know that we've even heard the argument yet.
No, we heard it. We heard it.
Scott,
go ahead,
Scott, I know you're thirsty for that Senate seat, but let me finish. What I'm going to say...
you allow this every night.
Scott, just give me 1 second here. Let's just let her finish, please.
Okay.
Just one
Listen, I know you've got the picky thing going on, but here's what I'm going to say.
What are you thirsty for? Some kind of relevance out here?
No, actually, Scott.
Let's clear something up right away. There isn't a single Democrat, liberal, or progressive voice out there saying, we don't care about murders. Nobody is shrugging off violence as if it's acceptable. And yet, that's the cartoonish narrative Scott Jennings tries to sell every time he lands on a CNN panel. This is the tired trick. Frame your opponents as if they secretly endorse chaos, and then position yourself as the lone voice of reason. It's a strategy that sounds convincing to the uncritical ear, but once you look closer, it collapses instantly. Jennings loves to use slippery phrases like, we need an acceptable level of violence. Think about that. What does that even mean? When Abby Phillip pressed him on it, And credit to her for doing so. He immediately pivoted. Instead of answering directly, he threw the question back at her, trying to dodge accountability. That's classic Jennings. Deflect, distract, and deny. But here's the part he can't spin. The numbers don't lie. Washington, D.C. has seen crime drop to a 30-year low. 30 years. That's not speculation. That's hard data. And yet, Jennings and his MAGA allies continue to paint the Capitol as some dystopian nightmare. Why? Because it props up Donald Trump's endless talking points about American carnage and lawless cities. It's political theater, not reality. Julie Regginsky wasn't having it. When Jennings started pulling his usual stunt, interrupting, over-talking, and even declaring, "I'm not going to allow that," she called him out. And let's be honest, the arrogance of that statement is stunning. It's Abby Phillip's show. Jennings doesn't get to decide who speaks. Watching him puff up like a middle schooler trying to control the classroom only underscored how flimsy his position really was. This wasn't a debate grounded in facts. It was Jennings performing for the MAGA base, pretending the data doesn't exist, while trying to shout down anyone who dared bring reality into the conversation.
Really? I elect a lot of Democrats. Let me finish my thought here, please. Can I just finish what I was about to say, which is that on January 6th, he could have deployed the National Guard. He chose not to. Now, today, because somebody named Big Balls got beat up, allegedly, he wants to deploy the National Guard to a place that has had a 30-year low in violence. And we all know that he is doing this because it's a power grab. He could have done this when this district was actually in danger on January 6th, but he didn't. And I think that's what's so offensive. He talks about backing the blue. He talks about law enforcement. He didn't give a damn, Scott. And you agreed back on January 6th. He didn't give a damn about those police officers and about the safety of people in Washington, D.C. Today, because he wants a power grab, he's doing this despite the fact that every statistic shows that Washington, D.C. has not been safer in the last 30 years. That's the point.
How is that going to fly? I mean, I don't know if this will ever go to a court. Maybe it will if he tries to get some kind of long-term extension. But how do you go from 2023, which was not even a high, honestly, historically not a high for DC, but a high in recent history, to now a 30-year low, to a few months ago, Donald Trump was saying crime in DC is so much better because of my people. He was saying that. And then go to Congress and say, we need indefinite authority over DC's local police force. How is that going to work?
Well, the answer is no for me. He's reassigning hundreds of members of the U.S. military, hundreds of FBI agents, and I'm curious to know what responsibilities, what federal law enforcement responsibilities are those agents neglecting in order to perform local police functions in D.C. And I just want to echo my agreement. Donald Trump is probably the greatest champion of lawlessness and disorder in our nation's capital. On the very first day of his presidency, he issued a blanket pardon for 1,500 people who were connected to a violent invasion of the U.S. Capitol, a violent invasion in which law enforcement officers were assaulted with dangerous weapons like fire extinguishers and pepper spray. And so he has no credibility on the subject of public safety at all.
Here's the uncomfortable truth that so many try to dance around. Donald Trump isn't simply about law and order. His political instinct has always leaned toward authoritarianism. Time and again, he telegraphs that he admires strongmen like Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un, and he projects that same style onto America's stage. What we're watching unfold in Washington, D.C. isn't really about crime at all. It's about flexing power, using military presence as theater in a city that, by the numbers, is already at a 30-year low in violent crime. Think about how absurd that is. Crime has dropped to historic lows, yet the response is to roll out a show of force, as if the city were in chaos. And the same playbook is applied to immigration. Instead of looking at the reality, that most immigrants are peaceful, hardworking, and simply seeking better lives, the narrative becomes one of fear and crackdown. It's a strategy of painting normal people as threats, so the use of heavy-handed authority looks justified. And of course, you've got Scott Jennings on CNN nodding along to this script. He never concedes the facts, no matter how many times they're placed right in front of him. Instead, he smirks, he rolls his eyes, and he plays the role of Trump's defender. Not as a thinker, not as a critic, but as an echo. That smugness isn't just irritating, it's revealing. It shows he knows the argument is weak, but he's determined to push it anyway. Now here's a question worth asking. When crime is already trending downward, does sending in the National Guard solve anything? Or is it simply political pageantry, an authoritarian performance designed to make supporters feel like they're watching a strongman take charge? The answer seems pretty obvious. Even Abby Phillip, who does a solid job moderating her panel, sometimes looks like she's wrestling with how to rein Jennings in. At a certain point, maybe the best move really would be to just cut the mic and give him a timeout. Because let's be honest, when you interrupt, deflect, and refuse to face the data, you're not debating, you're just behaving like a toddler in prime time. So here's the challenge I'll leave with you. Do you side with Abby Phillip and Julie Regginsky for pushing back with facts? Or do you find yourself siding with Jennings, who shrugs off data and embraces the narrative no matter what? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed for more breakdowns like this.